What is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be ranking the 7 deadly sins from the series 7 deadly sins. Okay, yeah, let's take it back. Guys, we got to come up with better intros than this. I mean, it's the same thing every time. It's what's going on, guys, and then I just say what I'm doing, and it's already bad enough idea, but then shit like this happens where it just sounds bad. We're going to use that. That's what we're going to put in the video for the intro. We're going to use that as an intro for the video today. Okay. All right. That sounds good. Here we go. I'm doing it. Here we go. So I would first like to mention that while, some people are just going to have to be at the bottom of this list like any list I make, I absolutely adore every single one of these 7 deadly sins. I can't even come close to disliking any of them. In fact, I would say that the strongest thing that the series 7 deadly sins has going for it is its amazing cast. I think it may possibly have a stronger base of characters as well as character development than any series I've ever seen, and even to pretty much quote, or I guess paraphrase Nuxtaku, it is the interactions between these characters that make the series so interesting. Also keep in mind, if you did not figure it out based on my disclaimer, I'm not ranking them based on how powerful they are. Not just do I not really think there's too much of a point to that kind of video, because I think it's kind of straightforward. The only real debate is between Mellie Otis and Escanor, and there's really like... it's just conditional. It's just based on a lot of conditions between the two, so it's just pointless in my opinion. But yeah, so I'm going to be ranking them based on how much I like them as a character. And again, I absolutely love all of them, but someone's got to be at the bottom. So with that all being said, let me just jump right into this. Coming in at the number 7 spot, the Goth Sin of Lust, Gowther. I knew from the very beginning when Gowther was first introduced and he was just kind of a little weirdo that he was going to be a lot more interesting than he was originally played out to be. It was kind of clear, he's going to be one of these people that's just kind of weird, but it's going to make sense once we get his backstory and whatnot, and that pretty much was the case. I will say it took a lot longer than I would have enjoyed to get that backstory. Just for the longest time, he was acting like an idiot nonstop. I mean, he really just has pretty much no emotions at all whatsoever. He decided to just erase Deanne's memories, which was so annoying. I mean, really, if there's anything in this story that I could take out, I would really like to just erase that whole part of the story. Fuck erasing her memories. Let's just erase that part of the story, because that was just stupid in so many ways. I understand why it had to happen, but it just... I didn't enjoy it at all. And that really wasn't fun for the longest time. Gowther's doing these stupid things. I mean, with his fight with Escanor, of course, it was one of the best fights of the series. Anytime Escanor's involved, it's going to be fantastic. But it was just like, dude, what are you even doing? You know this guy, used to fight with this guy. Why are you... And Escanor just completely one-ups him, He acts like he's going to fight, and then he just annihilates 2 of the 10 commandments. It was fantastic. But Gowther was acting like an idiot for the majority of the story, and even after we get his backstory, and now that he's like a really cool guy, I still don't really think he matches up against any of the other sins. They're all fantastic as well, so I have him at the bottom. Coming in at number 6, I have the Grizzly Sin of Sloth, King. I bet this one's going to be shocking to a lot of people, because I think most people would have King higher on their list. I just kind of get annoyed by a lot of like the crying he does and whatnot. He's just a little bit of a whiner, and I don't know. I guess it should be obvious that he kind of has like a sense of laziness to him, but it just kind of gets on my nerves to an extent. Like, don't get me wrong, I love him for all those reasons as well. Like, I love how he just always looks like he's about to pass out. He always is laying on his pillow, which is actually his sacred treasure. I think it's so funny that he makes his sacred treasure into a pillow and he's just like floating on it. It's kind of weird how it looks like he's like resting on it, but actually he's floating. It's really confusing, kind of, but it's really funny. I do love those things about him. I don't really know how to explain it. He kind of has this like Usopp vibe, actually, where everyone in the 7 deadly sins is just like a complete animal, and any time a threat presents itself, it's just like, oh yep, all right, let's just go deal with this, whatever. Sounds exciting. I mean, they're all just like so barbaric in a way, and King just doesn't really have that. And I guess, that's just his own thing, but I kind of wish he did. He always just seems like, oh, we should really rethink the situation, and I guess we need someone like that in the group, but everyone else is just so much cooler in my opinion, so I have to have him just slightly above Gowther. And then coming in at number 5, I have the Boar Sin of Gluttony, Merlin. Merlin does do a lot of cool things and has some awesome fancy schmancy tricks and whatnot. However, there are 2 main flaws for her that prevent her from getting higher on this list for me. The first part is that we don't really get to see any huge loving moments from her towards any of her fellow sins. It's kind of like she's just indifferent to them to an extent. I mean, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like, I know she's significantly older than them. She is from Mellie Otis' time, and she knows him and Elizabeth and whatnot from the past, and she just kind of, I don't know, even then doesn't really act that great towards them. She's also the only sin we haven't really ever seen get drunk, which I think is pretty important. I like to see how all of them act when they're drunk. I think it kind of adds a different dynamic to the setting, and she just doesn't get drunk. I don't know. I just feel like she's kind of lacking in the emotional department. And secondly, I just absolutely am disgusted with her obsession over Arthur. Like, I get it, Arthur's kind of cool, whatever, he's, you know, supposed to be the child of hope or some bullshit, but I don't really understand why she's so obsessed with the guy. Like, for one thing, I don't think it's really like a romantic obsession at all. I don't think that really makes any sense, and if it was the case, fuck, dude, Merlin's honestly probably gonna have to go down to number 7 for me, because that would be stupid and weird, and oh man, I especially, you know, with Escanor as an option, like, give me a break. But yeah, I don't know, I've just never really enjoyed Arthur as a character in the first place. Like, he's not the worst, but he hasn't really done anything that compelling in terms of the plot, or just, like, cool as a character, I guess. And it just seems like he's pretty much gonna be the biggest asshole in the entire series, even on a higher level than Gowther, which is ridiculous. Like the shit, the assholes and the hacks that Gowther has presented to us during the series have been so bad, but it seems to me like Arthur's going to completely top that. It's probably going to be no comparison with his whole Excalibur thing going on, so I don't know. It's just like, I really do not like that Merlin likes him so much, and especially, you know, like, she seems to prefer him over the 7 Deadly Sins, and I'm just here thinking, like, what I would do to hang out with the 7 Deadly Sins. I think they are the coolest characters ever, and Merlin's just like, yeah, they're alright. They're kind of cool, I guess. She really is lucky that she does do so many cool things. She has a very important part in the plot, because if it wasn't for that, I would have to have her even lower on this list. Moving on to number 4, the Serpent Sin of Envy, Deanne. It's really weird because for all the people I've gotten into watching 7 Deadly Sins, it seems like the majority of them don't really like Deanne, at least compared to the rest of the sins, but I don't know. All the way since she was first introduced in the series, I've always had her as one of my favorite characters. And I really wish I could give you guys some kind of substance as to why I think she's a brilliant character, but I don't really know what to say. It's just every time she's on screen, it makes me happy. I like to see her. I like the way she acts around her friends as well as her enemies. I think she's just a cool character all around. Surprisingly, I think her backstory was also pretty interesting as well. I know a lot of people didn't enjoy it, and at the time I didn't really either, because so much more interesting stuff was going on, but it's pretty good how she was pretty much just born into this race that's expected to be barbaric, which, you know, again, like I said earlier, is not really a bad thing, but, you know, they're supposed to just, like, go to war nonstop. The dream is to die on the battlefield, and Deanne's just like, fuck that. Like, you know, I just want to do my own thing. Like, yeah, fighting's cool, I don't dislike it, but at the same time, like, I don't want to be forced to do that. I want to do my own thing, and she does go and do her own thing. She goes and lives and fights with the humans and whatnot, and then she completely mind boggles Droll by just not doing the same thing as any other giant would do, which would be, you know, just keeping your honor, I guess, and fighting for the 10 Commandments, not running away. I don't really know how that is honorable in any way, shape, or form, just completely going traitor on your race, but nevertheless, Deanne decides to just run away, and he's like, what do you mean you ran away? She's like, I mean, you know, I didn't want to die. Like, it's just perfect. I think she's a great character. She's the most down-to-earth in the series, if you ask me. So I put her up a decent level on this list. And now I'm going to give you number 3, and I would like to say that I think these top 3 are the god tier, and really, I've considered number 3 actually being number 1 on multiple occasions. These 3 are just so hard to compare to each other. They're all such fantastic characters. They make this series one of the best. I think that they're the biggest reason that 7 Deadly Sins was the 3rd top-selling manga in 2017. I think they're just all way too good for that not to have happened. Coming in at number 3, I have Mellie Otis. It's almost weird to me that he's not number 2 or even 1, because the biggest reason that I love Mellie Otis so much is that he is the type of person I want to be. If I could just be exactly like him in every way, I absolutely would do it. I think that he is just like the perfect guy. He has a fantastic sense of humor. He's really not evil, I guess. I mean, when he gets his emotions taken away and whatnot, he is, and he definitely was in his past, but like, it's not the same thing. Despite being the captain of the 7 deadly sins and having his fellow sins refer to him as such, which is pretty insane if you ask me. I'm quite surprised that they would have a formality like that. I don't even know if he really wants them to refer to him as that, but, you know, the fact that they do really shows the amount of respect that he demands. But despite all that, he somehow seems to remain the most humble of the 7 deadly sins. Like, you would never know he is as powerful as he is. I mean, just think of the first episode when he's just like this little kid bartender. It's just, you know, he's getting made fun of by his customers, and he doesn't really care. And he really, I mean, if you were that powerful, and some idiots, some drunk idiots were making fun of you, like, how do you think you'd react? He doesn't care. He's just like, yep, these are just my customers. And then, you know, a few minutes later, we see him absolutely annihilate Lord Schwigo. I don't know. All I know is that since I started watching 7 Deadly Sins, anytime I act in a way that I'm not exactly proud of, I suppose, I try and think, you know, what would Mellie Otis have done in this situation? How would he have reacted to what is going on in my life right now? And I try to emulate that because I think that he is just like the perfect guy. And then coming in at the big number 2 spot, the runner-up to the ranking of the 7 Deadly Sins, the Fox's Sin of Greed, Ban. It became abundantly clear to me that Ban was going to be one of my favorite characters in the history of anime as soon as he was introduced, and him and Mellie Otis completely destroyed the massive castle that was apparently fortified by something so powerful that like 10 dragons couldn't destroy it or something, by just, I guess, arm wrestling. That's what it really came down to. I mean, they were also doing some weird thing where they were like hitting each other's hands, like playing patty cake or something, but it was the arm wrestling that really destroyed the palace, and they were just acting like nothing was even going on. I'm like, you know what, this is a character. This is what I've been waiting for. On top of that, while I did say that Mellie Otis is like the perfect guy in my opinion, the guy that I would like to emulate, I would say that Ban is the perfect best friend. He does have a kind of difficult time and really does kind of go off the deep end if you ask me at the end of season 1. I mean, really, him attacking Mellie Otis was very strange to me. Whenever I look back on it, it's kind of cringy, honestly. I'm really surprised that he did that. But he more than makes up for it, especially with the amount of regret that he feels for doing so. I mean, when he's talking to Zhivago, he is just torn. He's like, you know, you think that you were a bad father, but it's nothing compared to what I've done. I tried to kill my best friend, and for what? And really, it was like, for what? Like, that was so stupid. But he regrets it so much, and it's just fantastic. I mean, you gotta know that I've reread chapter 223 so many times when we first find out the whole curse with Elizabeth and Mellie Otis. And it's just like the part right before that when him and Ban are outside, and Ban is like, you know, whining about how Elaine's gonna die again, and Mellie Otis is about to be like, I know how you feel, because he knows how Ban feels. He really knows how Ban feels, and Ban's like, no, you don't understand. How would you understand that? And then like 5 seconds later, he finds out exactly what's going on with Mellie Otis, and you could just see in his face in the panels, like, he wants to kill himself. I mean, it's like, after he already tried killing Mellie Otis, he now like kind of just takes out his anger on him, telling him he doesn't understand. There's no way he could possibly understand. Mellie Otis understands it 105 times more than Ban could ever understand, and he just is so defeated at that point. Like, he has just screwed over Mellie Otis so many times, and he knows it, and he's like, damn, dude, I should probably just stop being friends with this guy because I'm just an asshole. And I know how he feels. I know what it feels like to just get completely shut down like that. Even if your life does suck, your best friend's life sucks even more in a way, and what can you really do about it? Despite wanting to be more like Mellie Otis, I can relate to Ban on so many different levels. He is the only real human of the group. I mean, I guess there is, you know, like Escanor and everything, but that guy's barely a human, especially when he's in his massive form. Like, come on, he doesn't act like a human. He acts like a demon, really. He's super, like, arrogant. Of course, obviously, you know, sin of pride. But yeah, I can just relate to Ban in so many ways. I think he is the most human character of the 7 Deadly Sins, and I just absolutely love him. I don't even need to talk about the awesomeness of him going into purgatory. I think that just speaks for itself. So, last but not least, if anything, it's the best because, you know, this is the #1 spot, of course, and this probably doesn't surprise too many people because I made a whole video about him, and, you know, again, process of elimination, you probably figured it out by now. I have, at the #1 spot, the Lion Sin of Pride, Escanor. To be honest, I kind of do have a very difficult time putting him as my #1 because I can't, you know, like I said, really appreciate him as a person the same way I can a lot of the other characters, especially Mellie Otis and Bond. But Escanor makes me feel this kind of way that no other character in any series ever really has. It's just like, as soon as he walks into the scene, I know that it is time to get excited. I'm so happy. It's like, oh, here we go, dude. Here we go. That's all I can think. That's all I can think every single time he's on the screen. I mean, I tried to make a pretty good point about how awesome Bond's introduction was, but it is nothing even close to the levels of awesomeness that Escanor was able to give us with his battle against Galen and, of course, Moleskula, I guess. I mean, that was, you know, not really that cool. Like, she just kind of ate him and exploded pretty much. But, yeah, it was still all fantastic no matter how you look at it. Like, the guy straight up introduced himself as Escanor Sama. Like, you don't do that, really. If you do that, you are just a complete dick. But, you know, the thing is, I mean, he's such a god, and he just happens to know it. He's like, yep, I'm just a complete animal. It doesn't really matter if you think that I'm arrogant or whatever, because I can beat you anyway. He even says to Esterosa, why would I hate those who are weaker than myself? I have only pity for them. Like, he really cannot concern himself with the opinions of others. Just like in Game of Thrones, when Tywin says, the lion, talking about Escanor here, right? The lion does not concern himself with the opinions of the sheep. I mean, come on. That's exactly how Escanor feels when he is in his giant form. I don't really know what to say about when he's little. Like, it seems like he kind of blacks out or something when he's in his big form because, I don't know, he's like really actually a pretty humble guy when he is in his little form, and why would you act that ridiculous when you get big? I mean, maybe he's putting on the show. Like, he's just, yeah, fuck it. I mean, I'm the Lion Sin of Pride. I should just act ridiculous whenever I'm like this. I remember the first time I was reading the Mellie Otis vs. Escanor fight that I was just DMing my good buddy Opio in Discord. I was DMing him because he's the one that got me into 7 Deadly Sins in the first place, and I was constantly DMing him pictures of the panels going on in this fight. I was just so hype. I'm like, oh my god, I need to share this experience. So it was like every 5 panels I had to take a picture and just send it to him. It'd be like, how is this happening? How am I just reading this now? Like, this is so fucking amazing. So yeah, I mean, I really can't say that I appreciate like his character traits or personality traits, I suppose, as much as I can Bond and Mellie Otis. But I feel like I just have to put him at the #1 spot because if every single time he walks on the screen I pretty much come in my pants, it's like, you know, you kind of have to put him in first place, right? Like, you can't not. So that is my ranking of the 7 Deadly Sins. It ended up being a lot longer of a video than I expected, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't that hard to do because, you know, I'm just talking about how much I like these characters because I really do. I would say that out of all the series I've seen up until this point, it could very well have the best cast. I mean, it really is. They're all so good. Gowther being the lowest, he's a better character to me than the majority of characters in other shows, so that really is insane. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember to leave me a comment letting me know what you thought about this video, if you enjoyed it. If you have a completely different list than me, let me see yours. I'd like to see it. Maybe you have Gowther #1. Maybe you don't like Escanor. You're not really a fan of the whole Pride thing. I personally love it, but, you know, that's just me. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, an excellent end to your weekend, and I will talk to you guys soon.